Hi, and welcome back to the Dropout Journey, the podcast about how to turn your passion into a career. I'm your host, Nr.15. Today I'm here with Lorenz and Mona, both co-founders of Design Your Purpose. They offer sessions and retreats for people wanting to learn more about themselves and find who they truly are. This episode as well was mostly about purpose. We talk about how to find it, why it's important to do so, and if you find your purpose, how to not lose sight of it. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the episode.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for coming. Been planning this for a while. I think we had to reschedule a few times. We finally made it happen. Before we get into it, can you each introduce yourselves real quick? Mona, let's start with you. Who you are and what you do.
Oh, yeah. Who am I? It's always an interesting question because, who am I? I mean, I could say so much about myself and then at the same time so little. But first of all, my name is Mona. I live in Bern. I have Somali roots, East Africa, but grew up in Europe. So somehow I would say I am like kind of a multicultural person. And I'm 30 years old and I have a lot of ideas and I'm very motivated to really to live a life where I can say, hey, I did so many great things. I met so many great people and I lived a rich life in experiences.
Wow. Awesome. Beautiful.
Yeah.
What an introduction.
Lorenz, how about you?
Now, I'm just still thinking about the question because and I just realized that here we are asking this question like so easily all the time, like, who are you?
Exactly.
And we're it's a super easy question. We consider it a super easy question, right? But actually in other cultural environments or settings, it's a super difficult question that you never ask someone. You would never go and say, hey, Tavi, who are you? It can actually be considered a rude question because it's very confronting. Like, who am I actually?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? And so I think we are going to talk about the topic purpose, right? So it's going to be connected to actually this question, who am I?
Exactly.
So I feel like you ask me this question is super tricky now. But yeah, my name is Lorenz. I live in Switzerland, Bern. I was raised here, and I went to school, to university, did everything here in Bern. And I just finished my master's degree, actually, which was 2 or 3 weeks ago. And now I'm basically free. And applying for jobs now, looking for new opportunities. Awesome. Feeling very inspired for all kind of new projects. So super happy to be here with you.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I met you guys here where we're recording this in the Affolter co-working space here in Bern. Met you after some meeting you guys had. Just got to know you guys real quick, and you just had the best energy, just super enthusiastic. I felt like I want to interview these guys, learn a bit more about you. And I'm like, I have to interview them together. So that's why I've had to improvise a little bit here with the microphones. But thank you both for coming again.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's really beautiful to be here with you. And we're super excited, actually, because we have never done a podcast together, actually.
Yeah.
So let's see how it will evolve.
I appreciate it.
So Lorenz did one by himself, but it's the first time for us together.
Yeah, exactly.
Then I'd say we get right into it. You guys have a project called Design Your Purpose, a retreat where I guess you help people find their purpose, or I think you guys know it better than me. Can one of you explain what it is real quick and what the whole project is?
I think, Mona, you're very good in doing that.
No, come on.
No, because she's like the salesperson of us. She can really present it on point and tell you what it is all about.
Okay, well, I wouldn't say that I can explain it on point. I love to talk and and tell stories. So, what this purpose retreat is all about is really, as the name says, to find your purpose. We live in a society where we have everything, we're so secure. We have, in material sense, we have everything. But at the same time, according to studies, over 70% of people working, they are doing jobs that they don't like. And we were kind of what is this, That's not true, right? And we have to do something. So that's actually one part why we are doing it. We want to really help the people to find time, space, and also the opportunity to really go inward and ask themselves the question, what is my purpose? What are my strengths? What are my values? And how can I really live a meaningful life that I can wake up in the morning and say, hey, I'm really looking forward to this day. Because honestly, life is a gift. And what a waste when we wake up every morning and we're like, I have to go to work now.
Totally.
I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's crazy, you know. And when you live in such a country like Switzerland, oh my God, you are so damn privileged. You know what I'm saying? And when you can't appreciate that, it's just a waste of life, right? So yeah, I mean, that's like one part why we want to help the people. And then the other part is also we asked ourselves this question, and we went through a process of what is our purpose, you know? What do we want to do? What is important to us? And Lorenz came up with this idea actually to do a purpose day. So it is actually kind of a follow-up of Lorenz's idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would, exactly, yeah. What I wanted to add to what Mona said is that, you know, the whole question about purpose, it's not some kind of like bogus woo-woo thing. But there's actually like scientific proof that people who find meaning and purpose in their work, there are studies about this, because I wrote my master thesis about this topic. There is proof that these kind of people wake up in the morning with what they call morning vigor. Right, so they wake up, they're like, whoa, and they want to, you know, get the day started and get into that what they're doing, and there are many more studies who show that people who live their purpose, who are connected to what matters to them, are much more happy, are much more satisfied with their life. Also, and that's what's interesting, more productive, right? And I think you will also be able to talk a little bit about that, because I feel like you are someone who is doing a lot of projects that you really like, and are also very productive in that. So for us, it's really about this kind of problem that we see, that so much more is possible if we are connected to something that we really think is important. And we feel that for some reason in our society, this question is like really small. It's like somewhere in a corner, you know, like, oh, why are we actually here? It doesn't matter. Let's just do something. Let's just do something.
Exactly.
So we want to bring this question into the room and help people to think about this, because it's also an important question for us, and we hope to inspire others to think about this, and in the end be more happy and more fulfilled with what you do.
Absolutely. I think what you said about you know, loving what you do, I do believe that when you love what you do, you just do better work. It's just like that. And I can say, I mean, I've talked about this in podcast episodes before, but before I started this year, I had an apprenticeship for pretty much the same thing that I'm doing right now.
Oh, wow.
So like as a media multitud. So I would be doing, you know, video production, graphic design, everything I'm doing right now. But I could not accept that apprenticeship. The moment I got it, I felt like there's no way I can do this. I felt like I'd be stuck there.
Yeah.
And what I think it was is the company, first of all, wasn't a place that necessarily interested me, even though like these types of things are my interests.
Yeah.
What I think the difference is that what I'm doing now, I have a reason to get up. I'm not making some media project for a company that I don't really care about, but I get up in the morning, and I know the problem I want to solve and exactly why I get up.
That's amazing.
So I mean, who knows? That might change in the future what that exact, I guess, why is. But for now, I think.
But that's interesting. I'm sure you have maybe talked about it on your podcast, but what's your why? Because I personally feel very inspired by you. Or you're like, I think you turned 19 or 20. Sorry if I'm wrong.
I'm 17.
My God. Amazing.
And already, you're already like super... Like you're into so many projects and you're so motivated in a time where seriously, like I was like, I don't know, playing computer and drinking some beers during that time, you know? And so maybe you can share, maybe the viewers already know, but what is your why?
What is my why?
Why did you decide to drop out and do what you do?
I have to be honest, it changes pretty much every week.
Amazing.
At the moment, I would say trying to inspire people to pursue the things they're passionate about as a career. And that's kind of what I wanted to show with this year, is going in saying that, first of all, I believe learning by doing is so much more valuable than studying for 4-6 years, learning all this theoretical stuff, and then starting from 0 point after that.
Yeah.
Like, the amount that I've learned in this past year is incredible. And I felt like I realized what I was passionate about. And I realized that, I just use content creation as a way to kind of show that passion. But just like, for me, it's taking an idea and finding a way to turn that into something. The whole process of how to do that is something that I find really fascinating. So I try to do that with any project. It's all about the process, really.
Beautiful.
But I would say just trying to make content that, helps people find the things they're passionate about and at least try to pursue that. Like, where they invest their full time in it. Because, a lot of people have passions. They do that next to work.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But you spend 8 hours a day in an office to do that 2 hours a day in the evening. Why not full time?
Absolutely.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Great, man. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's true. It's funny because so many people really believe that they have to do what they are doing. And the point is, life is what we believe, It's so difficult to get to the point where you really realize that. But when you see that point, you know that life is really what you believe. Because if you tell yourself you can't really break out, you have to do this, whatever, you're stuck somehow and you're so unhappy. And these unhappy emotions, hormones actually, you can come to a point where you become sick out of that. I mean,
no, it's
absolutely.
There is actually scientific.
I
don't want to be that guy, but there is scientific proof for that, right?
Yeah.
It's not some kind of woohoo thing that we are telling here, but it's true, and there is proof for that.
Yeah.
And I think it's so essential to become aware that our life is valuable. It's not something like, okay, we have been dropped into this, and now we're like, I don't know, someone told me I need to do this, so I do that. But it's actually like, whoa, we have a limited time here. It could be over tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And why should we not go after something that we think is important? And that's what the question of purpose is all about. Because maybe we can say that here, like, purpose is in itself a question as well as an answer. That's very, very important. When we are talking about purpose, it's not just like, okay, you have this one purpose and you need to go and find it somewhere behind a tree or somewhere. No, it's first of all, it's a question. The question we are now talking about, like, what does matter for you, right?
Exactly.
That's an important question. And then you will follow this question and you will come to different answers. As you said, each week it's maybe a little bit different. But to have this question in mind is what's really important, and what also, like, the purpose retreat is about, the tune-in sessions we are gonna maybe talk about afterwards are also about to just bring this question up and keep it with you each day, actually, to have a little bit of time to think about, okay, is what I'm doing important to me?
Exactly.
And if not, then it's not dramatic, but maybe you should start to think about it and change something.
Absolutely. And it's also dynamic. Some people think like, if I found my purpose, it's going to be that thing, And as Lorenz explained, it's really something dynamic. And as you said, it changes from week to week, and that's perfectly okay. That's perfectly fine. It's just only about really, like, getting into this kind of mood and energy where you realize, like, I can have these questions. I can dive into, I can explore different aspects of myself, because we're not only this way or that way, we are so much more. We are creative, we are strategic, we are dynamic. There is kind of a static part to us as well. There is the part which wants more security. There are so many parts to us. And I think every part of us wants to be expressed in a way. And that's where the purpose also comes in, like, what is meaningful to you so you can express it, which part of yourself is meaningful to you that you can express it. And there's not enough room for people to come together and really do that. And that's what we want to do with this purpose retreat. Like, it doesn't there's no more purpose retreat because it's canceled because of Corona. But now we have the tune-in sessions, which are like kind of a digital online format.
Okay, cool.
Where people get a little kind of a sense what it is all about.
Yeah. They get some room for this question, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's also very important when we're talking about purpose as a question, right? Why is it so difficult? Like, why do we need something like a purpose retreat or something? Yeah, right. It could be something very natural. Like, why do we need something like that? And I think it's important to know that like society as a social system has certain goals. It collectively goes after, right? So we are born into this goal system, and if we don't think about it, we don't realize that we are just following goals that someone has made, and we are just pursuing them. Maybe they're not even important to us.
Absolutely.
So this question is really here for you to like shake you and wake you up.
To
Ask
Yeah.
you, are these goals that you're going after? Because we are always following goals.
Yeah.
It's not possible to do something else. You know, we're always following some certain goal. And to ask yourself, like, are these goals that I'm following important to me? And then maybe it's totally fine if the goals society gives you are very in line with what you like to do.
Absolutely.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect. But maybe there is something else that is important to you that it cannot be expressed by what you're doing at the moment. Then it's important to give room to that and think about, and that's then the second step after. First we have like purpose as a question, and then it becomes purpose as an answer, right? And then it starts to, okay, wow, how can I express that? How can I start to do that? How can I start to, I don't know, start my own project, whatever. So it's really about this kind of two qualities. Like first there is a question, and then there is an answer. And this answer is not finite. Like it's not finished after you have had this question, this answer.
Yeah.
But then the question comes up again. And that's perfectly fine. It's circular.
Yeah.
Like often we think in our society that things are linear, right? Because that's kind of the logic we have as a society, as a collective system. But things are actually not linear. Things are much more circular. So it's not bad if you have an answer and then you have a question again. That's normal. Sometimes we think like, oh, what if I find this answer and then after a while it's not true anymore? Maybe I was wrong. Oh my God, that would be so bad. Maybe I start this Dropout Journey podcast and after a year I will end it and all my friends will be like, oh, we told you. You know? But that's kind of the fear we have.
Absolutely.
And there it's important to say that like life is circular. Everything in nature is circular, right?
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to find an answer, follow it for a certain time, and then have a question again. And that's very, very important to have purpose as a question and purpose as an answer and bring these two together in a harmonic way and go through these cycles again and again.
So if somebody were to come to the purpose retreat, how would you go about helping them get closer to that purpose, even if it's only valid for a few weeks? How would you go about helping somebody get closer to their true selves, I guess, their why?
I love that you just said true self, right? Because now it gets interesting because purpose is very closely connected to ourself, but not just to ourself, but also to ourself, so to our self-image that we have. And when talking about self-image, it's always something that we call present self and future self. These two always exist. So it's very important to see that, okay, you are something now, but you can be something tomorrow. And all of us have this kind of intuitions, ideas, feelings of what they could be in the future. We all have that. And unfortunately, very often we are afraid to go after these things. So, and one sentence I really like is what Maslow said, actually: what one can be, one must be, right? So if you have an intuition, something that you think, wow, that could be me, you should go after it. So when people come to a purpose retreat, we start normally with present self. So who are you at the moment, right? To realize, okay, what do I bring with me? What resources, what qualities, what strengths, all these things, to get more hold of this, right? Because when we want to evolve as a self, we first need to know where we stand. So that's like the first step. There we have all kind of methodologies which are super powerful, but I think at the center it's really the question, who am I? But maybe we can talk a little bit more about different methodologies and stuff that we do, if that's interesting to you.
Wow, so very well explained, Lorenz. I loved it, really. So You actually said almost everything to that. Like, how do people discover themselves and discover their purpose? So how do they do that? Actually, there are many different tools, and we share with the people actually what we experienced, the tools that we experienced and learned. So we don't tell the people like, oh yeah, do this, and we have no idea. Like, maybe something's gonna happen. We're like, oh, okay, no idea. So for me personally, meditation is really like my tool. And I also would say that's kind of like the king tool in my point of view. Because what happens with meditation is you get to know yourself better step by step in a tempo which is actually suited to your own personality. Because there are laws, and then there is like kind of the diversification of nature. For example, we are somehow made of the same, but we look different, we have different experiences, and therefore like our combination is so different, right? And according to that, meditation is actually fits that. It means you learn in a different way with a different pace. You learn in a different way, in a different pace. And for me, it's actually the same. So when you meditate, you get to know yourself step by step, pace by pace. The way is actually fitted to your own personality. And you start to realize things, and then you see things suddenly you are more aware about your emotions. Suddenly you see how you react to certain situation and why you react to certain situations in that. So getting to know yourself with meditation is like, for me, key. That's like what I teach to the people. And then at the same time, I also say, get yourself a reflection journey. I don't know. Do you say reflection journey?
Self-reflection journey? Where you
Yeah, self-reflection journey. Yeah. So yeah, get yourself such a journey, and make notes. Journal. Do write everything down, and in that way, you have kind of like a mirror. You see your journey. You can understand, and sometimes maybe after 3 months, you read things and you're like, oh my God, I used to think about such situation this way, and now I'm thinking it this way, Somehow it's like your personal journey, and it's nobody who comes and says, now you have to do this, now you have to do that, It's like you who becomes really self-empowered through that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And that's actually, that's all, Sometimes people think, oh my God, this is so complicated, and and they're so afraid. But it's not. It's so simple and it's so easy. Yeah. The only thing is that our fear can become sometimes so big that we don't move. We don't take action, We don't take action, and we are not courageous enough to take the action because we don't know what is gonna happen, and the fear of uncertainty is huge by the people. Like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? It's so uncertain. And they're so like they're in pain, like they're suffering. But people, like human beings, tend to cling on what they know, to cling to their comfort zone, instead of saying, you know what, I'm gonna move my ass. Sorry for that expression, but I have to move in order to grow. And growing doesn't mean always that life is so blurry and so beautiful. Yeah. No, it means it can become uncomfortable. It can become like you have to change, And the moment you have to change, it's like, okay, who am I if I change, And you don't know who you can become. Like, for example, I'm just going to take an example. Some people are in a relationship. They are so unhappy, but then they don't know who they are without their partner because they were like, I don't know, 10 years with this person. And then they're so afraid of leaving the person and living a life. And you're like, fuck, I'm sorry. You're so afraid of becoming happy that you'd rather stay with this person? Really?
I love what you say, because it really connects to what we said before, like this clinching that Mona said. It's really what happens when you're like really attached to your present self, right? So you're like really much holding on to what you think you are, and you don't want to move away from that because you're afraid. So each time when someone knocks at your door, like, wow, you could be this, or wow, this could be amazing, you're like, no, I'm like this, you know? And it takes really strange forms, as Mona said, like you're in an unhappy relationship for 10 years, and you know that you don't like it, but then still you're like, don't want to risk it. So I think that's very important. That's why what Mona said are like really long-term things you can do, right? You can journal for a long time, and it will help you over time to become more aware of yourself. But then also there are like short-term things that you can do to get new inspirations, and that's like different exercises we do at the retreats or in the online workshops, where you really like get some new impressions on who you are actually. And that's like you can work with values. So what is really important to me? Like when you ask this to people, sometimes it's really hard to say what is really important to me. So when you have clarity on that, wow, that's really a game changer, because you walk through your life and you only see what is important to you. You know, it sets the frame for how you are like interacting with others, seeing things. So becoming more aware of what is really important to you is one exercise we really love to do. Then also strength, like becoming more aware, what is your unique talent? The thing that you are like very good at. For example, you are like recording here, you're working with all this technical stuff, everything.
I always have to like look around, see if everything's going good.
Exactly, and at the same time you're interviewing us, like, wow, that's huge talent. And it's hard for you because you're learning, but still it's like, it's relatively easy for you, much easier than for someone who is like not at all into this kind of things, right? Someone else would be much more at ease, or could evolve much easier in another area where he has his special talents and skills. So that's another exercise we do, like becoming aware of your strengths and using them to create your life, because we all have very, very individual gifts, one could say, and to be aware of them it's really a game changer. Because otherwise you will do things you're not really good at. People will give you a bad feedback. You will be frustrated about it. It's really sad.
Yeah, that's so true.
I think it's exactly that. A purpose can be something that, is a problem you want to solve, just something you want to change. But then there's always the way that you express that. You know, for me, it's podcasting, it's videos, it's content. But that could just as well be music. You know, you can have a purpose and express that in different forms. It doesn't have to be one way. So that's, I think, something that's pretty fascinating is, to be honest, not everybody's talented at a lot of things. So if you have to kind of find that balance of what do I want to change and what am I good at? And then find that balance and then do that. I think that has a lot to do with the evolving of the self, right? If you can express yourself in a way which creates resonance with other people, with other situations, then you can grow. So it's really important to be aware of like, who am I? Who do I want to be? And who else does that include? What can I create? What kind of value can I create for others as well? And I think we're like often very self-centered in our society. And we think like, okay, what can I get out of this? How can I become rich? Whatever. And as soon as your switch or your focus switches, and you start to think about, oh, how could I actually do something positive to Tavi, for example? Like, how could I help him? Yeah, exactly.
Wow, you will find so many opportunities to do that. And I think it's a really essential point that you mentioned.
Back to what you said about uncertainty and you about fear. Fear will always be there. Uncertainty will always be there. And I think it's just mainly important to embrace it. Just accept that it's there and know you can't change that. But when you let, actually, it's pretty interesting. Just on the way here, I was reading a book. It's called Big Magic.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
No way.
Yeah.
I love that book.
And so right then she talks about how fear will always be on the journey with you, you know? But it's just important that you can never let it in like the driver's seat. It'll always be there. But you can't let it take over. I think it's funny.
It's so important. I think we have to accept fear as what it is. An emotion, right? It's an emotion that we have from time to time, and we have to accept it and integrate it into ourselves. You know, we have to accept that this is something important which is part of us, and often we think it's something that shouldn't be there. And as soon as we start to kind of there's actually, like, if you're interested in emotional intelligence and regulation of emotions, there is one technique where you start to think differently, interpret your feelings differently. So you could be nervous in front of a podcast, for example, and you could interpret that, oh my God, I'm nervous. I'm going to be like super shaky and everything. You could interpret it as that. But actually, in fact, these kind of feelings that you feel are the body's readiness, like it's getting ready to be focused. So you can actually just think about this fear or this nervousness as a support of your body to be more in the moment. So it's the same with fear. So you could think of it like, oh my God, it's going to be so bad, da, 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 da. Or you could think of it, wow, this is my body telling me that I'm doing something important. And I think that's so relevant to know that we can decide how we want to think about fear and how we want to, you know, in the end, act when fear is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well explained, Lorenz. I mean, I totally agree, and I think it's really funny. I mean, fear is really funny. No, honestly, it's so funny, isn't it? I mean, you can be so fearful about something, and then nothing happens, and you're like, oh my God, nothing happened. Yeah. I mean, yeah,
it's all in your head, really.
Yeah. It's really. There was actually an incident many years ago where I realized that the feeling of nervousness is the same feeling like.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah, it's the same feeling like being in love. I had an exam, and I was so nervous, and I was like, "Oh my God, it feels like I am in love." Crazy.
Wow.
That's powerful. And that starts when you're starting to like focus on the feeling itself and not on the interpretation of it. Usually we are focused on the interpretation of the feeling. So like, oh, a certain feeling comes, and with the context and everything, we jump to the conclusion very fast. Okay, this is nervousness because it's an exam, and love doesn't really fit into this context, right? But when we really observe what is actually there as a feeling, we realize that, and it's actually also scientifically proved, there is no real difference. Like it's very hard to differentiate the different feelings and emotions. It's hardly possible. Like they try to measure, like, okay, is fear more here and there, and they couldn't find significant differences.
Wow.
So the fact is, we do have all kinds of stuff going on in our body, and we interpret it.
Yeah.
So how do you interpret your fear, and how do you think about this kind of feeling when it's there? Do you take it as an enemy, or do you take it as a friend?
That's a very good question, Lorenz. And I love your questions. And I just wanna mention something which I think it's so funny, and that's love. There are so many people, including me, by the way. I used to be that way too. We fall in love with someone, or we have feelings for someone, and we don't say anything. We don't tell them. We're like kind of oh my God, should I say something? Should I didn't say anything? Should I approach her, or should I approach him? Oh my God, so much drama is going on in your head. But then you realize, like, the moment you approach it, you say it or speak it out, it just disappears, you know? And what can happen is a yes or a no.
Exactly.
And the moment you express it, you know it, and everything is fine.
Exactly.
And I was like, oh my God. And people feel this so much.
Yeah.
There are even people, they fall in love with someone and they don't do anything out of fear. And then when they are 90 and dying, they're like, I loved her my whole life. I didn't say anything. Or, you know?
Yeah.
And you're like, dude.
I mean,
damn.
Exactly. Like, what do you have to lose, really?
Yeah. True.
And there we are with the self. What you have to lose is your present self. You can lose that. And we're afraid to do that.
Yeah.
And once we realize that self is something dynamic and not something static, we are much more easy about that. Because, maybe my present self can be destroyed. Like, okay, she doesn't love me. And this thought I had, maybe she loves me, will not be part of myself anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what we are afraid of. But do you want to have this in yourself concept for your whole life, even though it's not true? Or do you want to like find out, okay, actualize your self-image and move on? So, it comes back to this question.
True.
Yeah. Okay, so my last question for you guys today is, you help people find their passion. You help people find their purpose, how do you not lose sight of it? Because I know that is something I've experienced as well. Like, I just recently became self-employed, doing content for brands, so forth. And I know, honestly, I could drop the podcast, I could drop these video projects that I'm working on at the moment, invest 100% of my time in client work, and I'd make a bunch more money and, you know, be able to buy more things, you know, whatever. But I'm always reminded of, like, why I actually do this, you know, what I'm actually trying to change. And, you know, that's really what keeps me going. But how do you not lose sight of that purpose, that why?
That's true. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Being self-employed is like the best thing you can do. Not for everyone, but when you feel it, like, it's amazing. Me, myself, I am in that process, and it's really like, awesome. I'm so super motivated.
Nice.
And yeah, I mean, how are you staying with your why? For me, it's quite easy because that's like what I'm doing the whole time. Even when I'm not working on my projects, I'm talking to people, I'm asking questions, and that keeps me actually in this direction, you know. Somehow, like, that's like the question, you know, why this and that. It's like what I do every day. I read books, I talk to people, I listen to podcasts. It's like my inner fire who really wants to know what is behind, you know. I mean, that was like that was like my thing, like my whole life, even as a child. Oh my God, I was such a weird child. My mom was always like, "What's wrong with you, kid?" I used to ask questions and annoy the adults, and my mom and my auntie, they were like, "Oh, shh, stop asking questions," you know, because the adults were saying like, "Oh, what is this child? She's asking questions. She want to know things," you know. And yeah, I got me a lot of trouble because of that. Because, you know, in the culture that I grew up, you know, the Somali culture, as a girl, you have to be a certain way. You have to be nice. You have to be super nice and quiet. And I wasn't that child. I had a lot of questions. So I grew up even that way, you know, having questions, asking people things, observing. And I remember that I didn't know what was happening. So my inner fire of knowing kept me going, actually. And I think it's so beautiful to talk to the people, you know, because they share their perspective with you. And it's always unique. A perspective is always unique. I can read books about physics, about spirituality, about mathematics, and so on, and think I know in my mind the laws and the biology and the psyche, but still I don't know, because every human being experiences life in a different way, and that perspective is so unique. And yeah, that's why I enjoy to talk to people and listen their stories, and it gives me somehow kind of feeling like, oh my God, wow, you know, and people love to talk too. And yeah, that's actually why. Beautiful. I could tell you much more, but I think that would be too much.
How about you, Lorenz?
What was the question, actually? Because I was so
how do you not lose sight of your purpose? How do you not lose sight of your why?
Wow. I loved your answer. And I think it's true, Mona is like full of so many questions, and that's what really keeps her going. And that's why she also loves to do this kind of workshops, because she's really interested in the people that are coming. And that's also why people love Mona, because she really loves them and is interested in them. So, and it's really the case. So I think it's a very important question. And what I think is that it can happen when you have, because we said like purpose is a question, right? And then you find an answer. And then clinching, it can happen that you identify very strong with that, right? And you start to do stuff and you run after it and you're like very motivated to achieve it and this kind of stuff. And after like, I don't know, a year, 2 years, 3 years, you might realize, okay, why did I actually do that? Like, you don't feel good anymore with it. I think all of us maybe had situations like this where we do something that we actually love, but we don't feel it anymore. And I think that also happened to me, for example. And that's why I try to have regularly to have some kind of purpose retreats for my own. So like 1 week ago or 2 weeks ago, I did just a hike on my own, just me.
Oh, yeah.
I brought my book. And I actually went through a process that I thought about before, like I prepared it a little bit.
Nice.
So I would always like walk from bench to bench, kind of. Sit down, write down some stuff, think about it, and then walk, and then it like process it, right?
Yeah,
and you're like, oh yeah, that's the thing. And then you go to the next bench, you sit down again, you write down, and I think the funny thing is I was walking so fast, like the hike was like for 4 hours and 30 minutes.
Wow.
And I was always sitting, right? So I think half of the time I was sitting and writing, and the other half of the time I was walking. So I did the walk in half of the time. I was almost running because I was so inspired by the things that I wrote down.
Wow.
And I was like, oh yeah. And then the next bench I would sit down and write it down. So the question was like, how do you reconnect to your purpose, right? I think it's important to see, okay, purpose can be an answer. But we also have to go back to the question again and again. It can be on a weekly basis, it can be on a monthly basis, it can be on a yearly basis, whatever fits to you. And I think the sign is when you don't feel fulfilled with what you do, that's the sign where you know, okay, I have to bring up this question again. And that's nothing bad, because often people feel like losers when they have this question, right? They feel like, oh my God, why am I not feeling good with what I'm doing? I shouldn't have this question. No, it's a normal process. You do something, you feel inspired by it, you actualize yourself, right? You go this step, and then you realize, oh, it's time for something new. Or maybe it's not even something totally new, it's just something a little bit different. And you go into this question again, you bring it up, you get a new answer, and there you go. So to have this kind of retreats, actually, that's the meaning of the word retreat, to retreat yourself and think about this question, right? So I think that should be a regular process that you have, like maybe even in companies, you know, there should be something like that on a regular basis. So that's what I try to do, to have my own retreats from time to time and reconnect to that question.
Do you want to say something?
No, I
Okay.
just enjoyed Lauren's answer.
Taking it in, embracing it. I think this is a great place to end. I think.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming. I had a great time. Learned a lot from you guys. You guys are really incredible people.
Thank you, Tavi.
Yeah.
I mean,
course.
I really feel so grateful you invited us, and it was real beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really amazing. And thanks so much for asking so many questions, giving so much space, and being inspiring. Just, being inspiring, inspiring
I
us.
appreciate it.
Absolutely. You are inspiring, my friend.
If people want to find your work, your projects, your retreats, where can they do so?
Mona.
Okay, so there are actually many ways to get in touch with us. Design Your Purpose is a collaboration we have with a friend of ours, Fabienne Stoll. And we are organizing these tune-in sessions, these purpose retreats actually with her. And then I'm in the process of doing my own thing. So it would be Mona Dawood. And Lorenz?
Yeah, exactly. You can connect to us on Instagram, Facebook, everything. The most actual thing we're doing are the tune-in sessions, which Mona mentioned. And they're like 3 very short sessions, just 1.5 hours.
Okay.
It's online. And you can tune into that question on 3 different levels.
Okay.
And you will find the information online on I think it's designyourpurpose.ch.
Yeah.
Cool.
Designyourpurpose.ch.
And there we have like these 3 sessions. You are free to go with all of them, or to just choose one where you think like, okay, this approach fits most to me. And that's the most actual thing. And of course, you can connect to us on Instagram, Mona Dawood, Lorenz Affolter, or on Facebook or on LinkedIn. Wherever you feel like.
Wherever you feel like. And we also recommend to do all the sessions together, because it's like kind of a process, you know. Of course, you can do them like 1, 2, what you feel it's like appropriate to you. But if you take the whole package, it's really beneficial.
Because it's actually like designed like a process. You can tune into this process at different steps, but still it's like the idea is that it starts with becoming present. That's the first session with Mona. Then the second session is dreaming. So getting rid of all these restrictions and thoughts, well, I cannot, and just start to dream like, oh, what could my future self look like if everything was possible? And then the third session, and that's with Fabienne, the amazing Fabienne, who is not here today.
Fabienne.
But maybe we can make a
Let's do an
podcast
episode
with
with
her.
her.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
amazing.
you should do that. She's amazing,
Cool.
really.
She will be able to tell you so many more things also about that
Yeah.
topic. And then the last one is really like action, what you also said. So what has action to do with purpose?
Yeah.
Because we have purpose as a question, but then we also have purpose as an answer. And when we have this answer, we need to get into action. So that's the last session.
And that would be with Lorenz.
And that's with me, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for coming again. And all the best with everything you're
Same
working
to
on.
you.
Thank you.
It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you. It
Of
was
course.
a pleasure.
Well then,
Take
bye-bye.
care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.